Imagine someone who has spent their entire adult life working, 4 decades, sometimes 5, waking up early, staying late, raising kids, paying bills, trying to get ahead but often feeling like they are barely keeping up. Then one day, they reach a point millions of Americans arrive at every single year, a moment that is quiet, almost unremarkable to anyone watching from the outside, yet completely life-altering for the person standing in it. This is the moment where all the years of effort, sacrifice, responsibility, and hope come together and ask a single question. Did everything they worked for actually build enough for the next chapter of life? The chapter where paychecks stop and savings must stand on their own. Stay until the end to really understand that. And here is where the mystery begins, because while everyone knows retirement is coming, almost nobody knows the real truth about what the typical person reaches it with. Ask 10 people how much the average retiree has saved, and the answers will be all over the place. Some will confidently say $1 million, because that number gets repeated so often that it sounds like the minimum required to even consider retirement. Others will say almost nothing, because they constantly hear stories of people struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, and entering retirement with fear instead of security. But if you press them for the actual number, the real number supported by data and not guesses, most people suddenly have no answer at all. And yet, understanding that number changes everything, because it reveals not just a statistic, but an entire story about how people handle money throughout their lives. The moment someone reaches retirement age, especially around 62, marks a turning point. 62 is the earliest age Social Security allows someone to claim benefits, though at a reduced amount. It is also the age millions of people choose, whether by choice or by necessity. For some, retiring early feels like a reward. For many others, it feels like an escape. From physical exhaustion, health problems, layoffs, the weight of a demanding job, or simply the feeling that they have given everything they can give. But regardless of the reason, age 62 becomes the point where savings stop being built and start being tested. And that test begins with a simple question. What does the typical person actually have at this moment? According to Federal Reserve data, the median retirement savings for households headed by someone around age 62 sits between $185,000 and $200,000. This is not their total wealth. It is not their home, not their car, not their bank account, not their furniture, not anything they could sell or borrow against. It is only the money placed in retirement accounts. Their 401k, their IRA, the money specifically meant to support them across decades of retired life. And while $200,000 may sound like a decent sum at first, it becomes far more concerning when you consider how long retirement now lasts, how quickly inflation erodes purchasing power, and how expensive healthcare becomes in later years. Still, $200,000 is better than nothing, and it is important to acknowledge that. Many people fear that the typical retiree has absolutely no savings at all. While this is unfortunately true for millions of individuals, it does not describe the median household. The real problem, however, is that although this amount is not zero, it is nowhere near enough. Not for 20 or 30 years of retirement. Not in a world where costs continue rising. Not when every dollar must be stretched further than the last. At this point, most people ask a logical question. What about total net worth? What about the value of the home, the car, the savings account? And that is where another layer of the story reveals itself. The median net worth for households around retirement age sits near $400,000. But most of that number is locked inside the family home. And home equity, while valuable, does not pay the electric bill. It does not buy groceries. It does not cover medical expenses. Unless someone sells their home, downsizes dramatically, or takes out a reverse mortgage, that equity remains trapped inside walls and floors that cannot be spent. Which means that the number that truly matters is still the retirement account balance, the liquid, usable, spendable amount. And that amount, for the typical person, is around $200,000. How does this happen? How does someone work for 40 or 50 years, earning millions of dollars across their lifetime, and yet end up with only a small fraction of that as retirement savings? The answer is not one single mistake. It is a collection of smaller, quieter decisions repeated over decades. Many people never learn how investing works. nobody sits them down to explain compounding in simple terms. Without understanding how powerful early investing is, they avoid it or delay it. Others fear the stock market because they grew up hearing that investing's dangerous. Maybe their parents told them stories about losing money in previous crashes. Maybe they watched someone they know panic during a downturn and pull out at the worst possible moment. Fear makes them avoid the very tool that could have saved them. Then there are those who keep their money in cash because it feels safe. They prefer the comfort of a stable number in a bank account, even though inflation quietly reduces that number's value every single year. But the greatest reason behind low retirement balances is even simpler. Most people save very little. The national savings rate hovers around 5%, and that includes all forms of saving, not just retirement. 5% is not enough. Not when that same money must support emergencies, major expenses, and long-term goals alike. With so little saved and even less invested, the result becomes predictable. People reach their 60s and suddenly realise the clock has run out. To understand what $200,000 actually means in retirement, it helps to translate the number into income. The commonly referenced 4% rule, designed to help a portfolio last at least 30 years, suggests withdrawing around $8,000 per year from a $200,000 balance. That is roughly $666 per month. If someone follows a more aggressive approach and withdraws around 8% annually, similar to strategies promoted by certain financial personalities, the portfolio might produce $16,000 per year, about $1,333 per month. Even combined with Social Security, which pays the average retiree about $2,000 per month, the total monthly income typically lands between $4,700 and $5,300 for a married couple. Enough to survive, but not enough to thrive. And what makes this outcome even more surprising is how little it actually takes to reach $200,000. If someone invests just $120 per month, from age 30 to 65, they will end up with roughly $200,000. That is $4 per day, the cost of a cheap coffee, the cost of many small daily habits people barely notice. And yet, because consistency is rare, few ever achieve it. Many people only contribute to retirement when they feel they have leftover money, which means contributions are sporadic and too small to build true long-term growth. But here is the essential insight. Being above average is not difficult. The bar is extremely low. If the typical person retires with $200,000, someone who saves a little more or starts a little earlier ends up far ahead. A person contributing $300 per month can retire with around $500,000. Someone contributing $500 per month can reach $800,000 or more. These amounts are not the result of extreme sacrifice. They are the result of consistency. And even for someone who reaches 62 with only $200,000, the story is not over. If they simply delay withdrawing their investments for a few years, perhaps by working part-time or relying on Social Security first, their portfolio continues to grow. 5 years of typical market returns can turn $200,000 into more than $320,000. 7 years can push it toward $400,000, nearly doubling the original amount without adding a single extra dollar. This is the quiet power most people overlook. Compounding does not only matter for young investors, it matters for older ones too. And even late in life, time can transform a modest balance into something far more meaningful. All of this reveals one final truth. Retirement outcomes are not accidents. They are the natural result of habits built over decades. And while the typical person retires with far less than they imagined, the path to a different future is clear for anyone willing to take it. When most people hear the number the typical retiree has saved, they feel a mix of disbelief and concern. They wonder how someone can work for 40 or 50 years and end up with so little to support the rest of their life. But the truth becomes even more revealing when you dig deeper into how these patterns form, because the typical retirement outcome is not the result of a single decision or a single mistake. It is the result of habits that develop slowly over decades, habits that feel harmless in the moment but become expensive over time. Each year someone postpones saving, each year they avoid investing, each year they choose today over tomorrow. Their financial future shifts in small ways that only become visible at the end. Most people assume that time will rescue them, that years of working will naturally turn into years of financial comfort later. They believe that simply staying employed for long enough will somehow guarantee a stable retirement. But time is only helpful when it is paired with consistency. If someone does not invest consistently, time loses its power. The years pass, the paychecks disappear into expenses and lifestyle upgrades, and the opportunity for compounding fades quietly into the background. That is why so many people reach their 50s and suddenly feel the pressure of retirement in a way they never did before. They look at the calendar, they look at their savings, and for the first time, they realise how little time is left for compounding to work. Picture someone in their mid-50s opening a retirement statement and seeing a number far smaller than they expected. Maybe they assumed they were doing enough because they always paid their bills on time, avoided major debt, or worked long hours to support their family. But retirement savings are not built from effort alone. They are built from deliberate choices, consistent contributions, and time spent in the market. Without those elements working together, even decades of hard work can result in a modest retirement balance. And this realization often inspires a wave of urgency. People begin increasing their contributions rapidly. They try to make up for decades of missed opportunity in just a few short years. But no matter how motivated they become, they cannot recreate the decades that have already passed. This is why the numbers look the way they do. Because millions of people start investing only when retirement feels close. But by then, compounding has had almost no time to multiply their money. Early contributions grow the most because they have decades to expand. Late contributions, even if large, simply do not have enough time to catch up. And that single truth explains more about typical retirement outcomes than any other factor. But it is not just about delaying investing. It is also about underestimating how powerful small contributions can be. Many people believe investing's only meaningful when they can put in large amounts, so they delay starting until they make more money or feel more ready. But the math tells a very different story. Consistent investing of $120 per month, just $4 per day, can grow into $200,000 by retirement. $300 a month can lead to $500,000. $500 can push someone near $1 million. These outcomes do not require extraordinary intelligence or high income. They require stability, they require patience, and they require someone to realize that compounding is a quiet force that rewards time more than anything else. While this might feel discouraging to someone who begins late, there is also a powerful hidden advantage waiting to be discovered. Even at 62, even at the moment someone stops working, their retirement savings can still grow dramatically if given time. The typical retiree with $200,000 might feel behind, but if they can simply postpone withdrawing that money, maybe by working part-time, by using Social Security first, or by reducing their expenses temporarily, their retirement outlook can transform. 5 more years of growth at typical market returns can push $200,000 to more than $320,000. 7 years can lift it toward $400,000. Without adding another dollar, their portfolio can nearly double simply by staying invested. This reveals something most people never think about. Retirement does not have to begin at the exact moment someone stops working, and withdrawing savings does not have to begin at the exact moment someone retires. These are separate decisions. Many people blend them together without realizing they don't have to. Someone can reduce their hours, shift into a less demanding role, or take on flexible work while allowing their savings to continue growing untouched. That extra time can completely reshape the next 20 or 30 years of their life. And this brings us to an even bigger insight. The difference between the typical retiree and the financially secure retiree is not dramatic. It is not about earning 6 figures. It is not about making perfect investment choices. It is not about living an extreme lifestyle. The difference lies in consistency and timing. Consistency in investing, and timing in allowing compounding to work as long as possible. Because the bar to surpass the average is astonishingly low. When the typical person saves very little, starts very late, and trusts their home equity more than their investments, anyone who simply avoids those same traps ends up far ahead. Think about how powerful this is. Someone who contributes just a little more than average, or starts just a little earlier than average, eventually looks wealthy compared to the typical retiree. Someone who stays invested through market volatility, instead of panicking during downturns, naturally builds more wealth. Someone who uses automation instead of relying on motivation removes inconsistency entirely. Most of the strategies that produce wealth are simple. The hard part is doing them every month for decades. But simplicity is what makes them work. Now imagine what this means for someone watching this right now. It means that retirement does not have to follow the script most people accept as inevitable. It means that the typical number is not a warning of what must happen to you, but a reminder of what happens when people let life move forward without planning for the future. If you understand how the typical retirement number forms, you can avoid it. If you understand how compounding works, you can take advantage of it. If you understand how dangerous delay becomes over time, you can stop delaying. And the earlier these insights are adopted, the more powerful they become. But let us also acknowledge something deeper. Most people never talk honestly about retirement until it is too late. The topic feels distant, complicated, or uncomfortable. They assume things will work out. They assume they will save more later. They assume the future will somehow fit itself around their present lifestyle. But retirement does not adjust itself for anyone. It is shaped entirely by the habits they bring to it. And those habits, good or bad, follow them for decades. This is why the typical retiree story matters. It is not meant to discourage anyone. It is meant to illuminate the path people walk without ever realizing the consequences. It is meant to show how much power individuals have, even if they start late. It is meant to remind people that money grows quietly when given time and purpose. And it is meant to reveal that the gap between average and secure is far smaller than most people think. Imagine a different future. Imagine entering retirement not with scarcity, but with confidence. Imagine having options instead of restrictions. Imagine deciding where to live, how to spend your time, and what dreams to pursue based on what you want, not based on what your bank account allows. Imagine looking at your final decades, not with fear, but with excitement. That future is possible, but it does not appear automatically. It appears through action. It appears through awareness. And it appears through decisions made long before retirement arrives. And now that you know what the typical person retires with, you are no longer in the dark. You have the knowledge most people never receive until it is too late. And knowledge gives you an advantage. You can build habits that lead to growth instead of regret. You can choose consistency over delay. You can allow compounding to work in your favour instead of against you. And every step you take now becomes a brick in the foundation of a future where money no longer limits your life. The typical retirement story is a warning, but your story does not have to follow it. If you want to keep learning how to build a retirement that does not resemble the average, if you want strategies that turn small habits into meaningful wealth, and if you want to understand the hidden side of money that most people never talk about, make sure you subscribe. There is far more to uncover, and every lesson you learn today could be the reason your future looks nothing like the typical one. I want to leave you with a question. If you've made it this far in the video, it means what I'm explaining to you in my free Telegram community works, right? So join with the link below and let me know in the comments if you expect this amount, subscribe to this channel, and if you want to go deeper in these financial topics, you have a full guidance in the video that will appear on your screen in the next few seconds. And I'll see you soon. Just a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for educational purposes only, and any results depend on your own decisions and actions.